Okay, today is Tuesday, July the 8th, 2025. The time is 5:36 PM. We'll call this meeting of the Westport Long-Term Building Committee to order and ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pursuant to Governor Healy's approved legislation, H62, a bill extending authorizations for all local boards, commissions, and committees to hold public meetings remotely or in a hybrid format, extended timeline, amending Section 30A of Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, most recently amended by Section 40 of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, and replacing the current expiration date of March 31st, 2025 with June 30th, 2027. This meeting is a hybrid meeting, and it is being recorded. So at this time, we'll have an opportunity for public comment. Seeing no public at the moment, so we'll move on to the discussion items. The first item is slight typo here. It was actually supposed to be committee activity update. I just did want to let everyone know we did have an informal meeting, did not have a quorum a couple weeks ago, discussing, again, the presentation. And of course, we've got an updated version today, so I just wanted to mention that we did have an informal discussion without a quorum last time. So now we'll just move into the updated presentation from RGB, and we've got everyone here with us today, so please go right ahead. Take it away.
Thank you. When we last met, we talked about a couple of things we wanted to add to our presentation. One was a request to look at the existing high school as it sits now and what would it take building code wise and then ultimately cost to get into that existing space. The other one was to just kind of mop off the entire school with exception to the gymnasium and to put a cost model on that as well. So we did both of those things. We've added it to our presentation. So I believe because not everyone was here, maybe we should go through our presentation again, or do you want us to skip right to that?
I think it would be better if we went through at least a synopsis anyway of the presentation.
And then ultimately what we're looking for tonight is for direction to go to our next meeting, which is the public meeting, with a direction of the multiple options that we have been presenting. So that's kind of where we're going. If anyone will remember anything different, let me know. That's, I think, where we were. Okay. Want to start it off?
Yeah, we need to see
Oh, she controls that one, not us anymore.
the Dean's got the helm.
And Dee, are you able to forward that
Yes.
as well?
Yeah.
Right quick, just so we can follow along.
Mind if I just send the email?
Yeah, it's a PDF.
Yes.
So you could, just send that. It's much smaller. It's like 9 kilobytes instead of.
No, it was just
100.
loaded up in my queue. Give me 1 second. Ah.
So everyone can bring it up? You send it? Okay. Well, I mean, we could recap where we were. It's a number of slides now. It's like 54 slides.
We don't need to go, yeah.
We're not going to go
the
into
entire, but
serious
just
depth, but we
yeah.
can,
We'll spin through them real fast.
yeah.
Yes, indeed. And everybody, that's what Dee is taking care of right now, is making sure everybody has a copy of this presentation to go through in your email, so.
Okay, so again, just to cover, looking at the former high school and its potential reuses, also looking at the town hall and the town hall annex, and also council on aging. So the initial, I think we'll get to them, but there's 4 options now. So we could go to the next slide. The first sort of the task was looking at how the Council on Aging is used, who it serves within the community of Westport. We knew that the rec department, the youth and recreation department uses the former high school quite a bit. We looked at some options for the Council on Aging could expand, could provide spaces for psychological support, either students or anyone in the community. We looked at concepts for a farmer's market or nutrition programs, yoga, sports, athletics. There were a number of things brought forward in the community engagement of what the potential reuse of the school could be. So sort of a cap on that. Next one, please. So those some of the highlights. The most strategic, I think, considerations were wanted to really understand what the use of the building and through a cost-use analysis of the existing town buildings, as well as how this building, the former high school, could be broken down and looked at over now, presently, say this year, up to 30 years out. So that's kind of where we have, that's where we've advanced to. So we developed a number of options. So the next slide is, you want to talk about this one or not? So these were some of the things that we, I think I would say RGB, as well as the building committee here, long-term building reuse committee, we were looking at and discussing options of how of what may be pursued, but then in the end not. So these were the things that were considered not to be part of the study. So the idea of the school becoming a housing block of some type, looking at challenging who would manage it, who would modify it. We looked at, we discussed the idea that the school could be reused as a school in some point in the future, but looking at the demographics, the projected enrollment right now, that doesn't seem to be something that would be real favorable. There was discussion about selling the entire property, but that wasn't, no one seemed to be interested in that because of what the return would be to the town, probably fairly minimal, and it could not be really subdivided well because of septic and wetlands and the use of the sports fields and the campus, as we call it today. Didn't want to lose that as an asset. And then what would the town gain if you tore it down completely, just demolish it? What would you be left with? So those are really some of the things that we didn't investigate further.
And if I could ask you, just pause for 1 second. Would you be able to adjust the permissions on the attachment that you sent right quick, because I can't, just want to be able to follow along here. Oh. So, Jim, I see your hand up. Apologies if that was up during the public comment, but please feel free to speak at this time, if you would like.
I'm good. Yeah, we can put it up here. No, whatever trouble here needs.
Okay, maybe move the mic a little bit closer.
Then maybe you speak.
Oh, can't hear me? Oh, all right. Better?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's picking up.
Put it right down in your mouth. I got mine. Go ahead.
All right. So so we looked at
Next slide, Dean.
yeah, the next slide, which the former high school and how it is. So the initial study of like how is it used, and currently, again,
This one or the
we
next
talked
one?
about that. Yeah, sure.
Next slide. Next slide.
Yeah.
There it is, right there.
So the different programs that could be located within the footprint of the existing building. So the first pass was we're keeping the auditorium, we keep the gymnasium, we would try and, we'd not try, you would keep the school department and facilities. We would have the after-school program within the building. We would move the town hall and the town hall annex program into the building. And we would provide space for the Council on Aging. Of course, then you also have to do infrastructural improvements in terms of fire sprinkler and mechanical and the equipment going on. And there was some space for even a farmer's market, an indoor market, and an outdoor market. So this didn't really capture the exterior, but the idea that the fields and the sports facilities stay. So this was how the program could be introduced into the building. Next one, sorry.
Next one has, next slide, because
So
there's
this-
multiple,
Oh, yeah, sorry. So it loads in, but the option number one was basically to take the existing building and do code improvements, really only to be able to occupy it. It's not about renovating it completely to be as new, but then also look at maybe an addition to the town hall, which we're in tonight, to bring the annex here. So we combined those two into option number one, and we projected out, again, you will see further, the cost from 0 to 5 years, all the way out to 30 years, and what that may entail. We had the second option, which was, we call it adaptive reuse, so that's keeping the existing school completely, other than demoing one section, which was the connector, they call it the connector, surface connector. Renovating the building sort of as is with minor, say, interruption. That was studied in a similar way in terms of cost and the benefit of that. Third option was to start to remove significant portions of the building that, say, were either underutilized or we wouldn't need programmatically. If you decided to turn it into a community campus, we're calling that, where the former school is cut into significant component parts, but each one housing different program. And then the 1970s edition we're calling, which is option 4, and that really is keeping the gymnasium and locker room and athletic opportunities for the rec center. We keep the after-school school spaces, and we provide some space for the Council on the Aging, but it is more of a, like an annex to the existing Council on Aging, so it's a auxiliary use to account. And then the rest of the building is torn down, so we're looking at about 120,000 square feet of demolition. So those are the 4 that we've studied in more depth and have numbers to present on. So,
okay, next slide.
yeah.
I don't know if you want to pass these things out now. This is
Oh.
what we talk about the code town.
Yeah, well, I don't know I don't know if I have enough, but we did an assessment of what the existing, what the existing school, what it would take to bring it up to code beyond its current use as educational. So as soon as we introduce any other type of program, we move it into business use. So Council on Aging, really the rec, if we were to lease the space out, the rec department. So other than the school use and the facilities use, that's really what it is allowed at the current time.
Yeah.
And there was discussion last time about what it would take in terms of cost or verification to bring it up to code.
So briefly, if you go through these 3 or 4 pages, it talks about a suppression system is needed, a fire alarm, new fire alarm system is needed. There are other fire walls that are needed to be incorporated, and of course, ADA needs to be incorporated. Those are the 3 major elements to be able to occupy the school to meet code as it is today. It doesn't take into consideration your toilet facilities, which are geared towards K through 12, which would now be for adults. That has to change. And the watering system, in other words, public water, would have to be tested and submitted to the Department of Health. Those aren't listed on there, but those are common building code issues that will come up to get that final C of O.
So it's only code improvements, not replacement of mechanical systems and things like that.
Yeah, those are on our estimate.
Those are in your estimate.
Those are the minimum you'd have to do to occupy that
Okay.
space. If you wanted to keep what's there now, and
Okay, so this is the least cost, continue using alternative.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, we put everything on a 30-year to put everything to apples and apples, you have to put it all on the same common denominator. And that common denominator would be a bond to the most, the community type scheme, which was 30 years. So we brought everything out to 30 years.
Okay.
So some of the costs that may be good for 1 to 5 years, you'll see picked back up at 20 years. Typical mechanical systems, roofs, they only last 20 to 30 years, and then they have to get redone. So you'll see that on the largest scale estimate that we'll provide
Kind of,
tonight.
we push that more toward the end because we realize it's the municipal buildings and how long they go out. But, so the original, or the 4 options, we're just showing them graphically as diagrams for the school and how they're broken apart. And then we have a cost associated with that as well. So it's not really a one-to-one per se, but, because their options sometimes join town hall and the high school, right? It's not just individually that building. So this is how the building is formerly, or currently used. We have we have the temporary occupancy right now of how it's used. All the was it the gray, the dark gray is basically space that's not being officially used in any manner. The red, we have the gymnasium, we have some of the after-school program for the classrooms, and we have the school facility offices, which I think are only 3 little offices right there right in the center of the plan. The rest of the building is just not being used, so.
Again, by life safety codes, you just can't abandon this space. So this space in dark gray that's not used would have to be brought up to minimum code standards, fire alarm, sprinkler system, in order to meet that. Because you wouldn't want a fire to occur in a space that isn't used that could theoretically be transferred to other spaces around it.
Yeah. Next one, please.
I did that.
So, yeah, I'm sorry. Didn't let it play through. So this is the code, which I just handed out, but basically this is just spelling out the different code sections that we just talked about in terms of use and occupancy and the different subsections, Massachusetts Building Code for use, occupancy, and fire suppression. So that's just spells it out more specifically.
There's 2 slides for that.
Yeah, 2 slide. Some of the existing spaces and how they would need to be improved. Currently not really used. And just a real quick idea of what the annex would look like if we conjoined it with the town hall. And then we go into, that's option 1. Then we move to option 2, which is the adaptive reuse, using the entire school footprint. Go to the next one, please. So this is how the spaces were taken and introduced in terms of the program. Some of them have increased in square footage, but the majority of them are the same type of programs you have. So we gave more space to the rec department. We have the after-school program, which has increased because we were informed that there are more students, there's more need. So that could be absorbed. We know the town hall and the town hall annex can be put together or divided by floor. We have the Council on Aging in the back section. We had a community use space between the kitchen, the Council on Aging, and then the auditorium. So in other words, if the entire building stays, this is how it could be redefined.
But this takes into effect the expansion of spaces. It also equates to, the slide before this anyway, the slide before that equates to the darker gray, almost black, equates to about 20,000 square feet of unused space that we call rentable space.
Or undefined, right. And then the next slide is just a graphic of, other than taking down the connector and doing some modifications to it, to modernize that, really what the building could potentially look like. The next slide, I think, are graphics of how you would enter the building based on the new program, the new use, how the public can come and go from the town hall, how it could be brought in from the school department, how you could come in lower to either indoor farmers market, could be urgent care. We added a concession stand in the back, so we have toilets and concessions that would serve the play fields, the ball fields. So again, these were more about the modifications of how the community could access the building instead of to the limited access we have now. Increase the parking. This was a breakdown of the square footage, additional net square footage added under each program.
So what's important on this slide is if you look, if you can go back there 1 second, sorry, the net square feet, the last box to the right, shows Council on Aging increases almost 5,000 square feet in size. So this takes a little bit into effect of expansion capabilities. If you're in the space, you expand it, so you're not looking for another expansion a couple of years down the road. So that's the delta on the right-hand column. It shows that the town hall and annex pretty much stayed the same. We took their existing annex space, which wasn't as efficient as it should be because of its size and the bulk of the building. And then we just added that gross square feet. So they actually do get more space utilizing the same square footage because this is a more efficient plan. And then the youth after school gets an increase of about 3,000. Auditorium gets obviously, it was 0 to begin with, so it's got 12,000. And then the exterior hardscape, which was 0, is now about, if I read that correctly, 18,000.
So some improvements to the exterior space, playground, concession stand area, just improvements to the campus site, so.
I'll let you drive this one.
Now, this is Mason. So Mason was given the task to take the existing beautiful facade and come up with a new entry condition. Ta-da. So he's just given a look to what, again, this isn't finalized or anything, but the idea is that what it could become. So this is if we kept the Performing Arts Center, you found a patron or a group that wanted to facilitate this, how it's used. We put it very close to the Council on Aging, so you have access, you have ADA accessibility, and it can become a real community center as well, because you have the large space in front of the cafeteria and the kitchen that could even be supportive of that type of engagement. So the next one, the existing front entry, and as you see and we're looking at how this becomes the new town hall. So the new town hall receives a facelift. We get the connector out of the way. You have the awning to the theater.
You got to speak up into the mic.
Oh, sorry. That's next, please. The existing entry down near the classrooms and the gymnasium, and we gave it a new facade. So we replaced windows. We looked at the door and the entry scenario, how the gymnasium could have a relationship back to what it is, the school for Westport, the high school of Westport. So again, this is just the graphic to show. We increased some parking and the flow to the front of the building.
I think in option 2, you kept the entire school there.
Correct.
But it represents 3 different and distinct entrances,
Yeah.
where right now currently there's 1. So it kind of breaks it down. The benefit of this is you can control that entrance and exit point for different events. Town hall obviously closes at 4 o'clock. After school opens up until late, could open until 7 or 9. They would have independent entrances and security options.
This is the center of the space that we converted for the Council on Aging. So again, they can come in easily. They find an open space. We open the building to allow light, natural daylight, and connectivity for social and engagement type of space. More, can be quiet, individual, not like coffee shop. The next one, I believe, is taking the existing and trying to show what an office space would look like or could be converted into. This is more for the town hall and the town hall annex. Again, taking that core of the building, so a gut rehab, but give it a more modern.
We have a raised hand up there.
Okay.
Oh, it should like the basis.
Jim, go right ahead.
Oh, it kicks out every time.
Is that mute? Jim's up mute.
Jim,
Is that mute?
That was an accident.
No worries, no worries.
Oh,
oh,
okay.
The old library, the library was the multimedia center, but before before that, it was the gymnasium for the previous version of the building.
Yes.
Could that be converted into a swimming pool?
We- Yeah,
Anything's possible.
yeah,
I guess that's definitely possible for there, right? There's no basement below there, is
there's
there?
not.
So you could,
Yeah, we just didn't factor that in terms of the cost. But yes, I think you could, or there's opportunity where you could do something. An indoor pool is going to be more of a challenge than an exterior one, but, and
The
then
thing with
water and.
yeah, the thing with a swimming pool is the chlorine smell. So that's the biggest thing. So when you want to do a swimming pool inside of an existing building, you want to isolate it so that its mechanical systems are separate, so you don't enter the town hall and start smelling chlorine like a YMCA. That'd be the biggest thing, is try to control that. They could bring a small excavator in, and we could take some windows out, and they could core a hole in that slab, and they could pour a pool. They could do all that for money.
But we,
Do that.
I think that used to be the basketball court,
yes,
and that it probably has locker rooms, or previously used, places used as locker rooms, right next door.
yeah,
I'm not sure it's still, yeah, I'm not sure the lockers are still adjacent, but,
yeah.
I don't believe they are.
so, just real quickly, I want to, if we could, I guess, move on to the third option.
Yep.
And-
Okay.
And we'll just, if we just kind of go, because I do want to make sure everybody understands, everybody has a copy of this presentation now in your inbox. If there's permission issues, you might need to,
I did not receive it either.
oh, really? Okay.
We can
know it was
send
forwarded.
it. I have everyone, again.
I got the reminder for the meeting, but I did not get a copy of it.
I believe she just sent it on that thread.
I got it. I don't,
So it was on that
I
same,
see the reminder, I don't see the, that's my last email.
so what I was thinking, if we could
Yeah, we can go.
talk about the
So
third
these
option,
are-
and then the fourth, because the fourth is new, and
All
then we
right.
can go to the,
Yeah.
I'm looking ahead and I see all the numbers, which is
These
what
are-
everybody wants to see at
Sure.
the end.
These are-
I can skip it. So if we go to option three was based on a community-type center. It's based on what we heard during our public meeting of different options that they would come up with. So this one, these guys came up with pretty creative of keeping the existing floor plan the way it is and kind of cutting away the centers and making those centers more hardscape. So you'd create 3 different buildings, 3 different mechanical systems, 3 different electrical systems, so 3 independent buildings working on the same community campus. This would open up different things at different times of the day, but it would also incorporate some of the field activity into the hardscapes, such as pickleball courts for the Council on Aging, but also for the public if they wanted to use that as well.
And playgrounds and, yeah, segregation of different spaces for public use. So that's graphically how it starts to become three-dimensional. It has a farmer's market component. It has indoor market. It's terraced because of the levels of the topography change. So you have sports, athletics, indoor, outdoor possibility for various use groups. And so that's option 3 in a nutshell.
Can I ask a brief question in here?
Sure.
Couldn't you do all of that without separating it, chopping those things between the buildings? That's a really expensive way to go about things.
That's why we had option 2. Option 2, we didn't chop anything. Option 3, we
Yes.
chopped.
Yeah.
Not that you can't do it, but I've done enough buildings to know that doing that, we're adding 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 exterior walls,
Yeah.
Yep.
3 new mechanical systems, 3 new plumbing systems,
Right.
3 new connections to septic, and God knows what else you have to do
It
there.
was an opportunity to phase things in if people.
Correct.
Well, it's still a
choose-
big cost item.
Oh, absolutely.
So
And
as
is
we
it worth it? That's
Yeah.
Well, that's what you'll see. Our cost analysis is actually less expensive.
Well,
Because
or-
when you're doing that, you may add the walls, but you got 3 independent mechanical systems. Whereas if it's one building, you have to have one mechanical system, which is a greater cost to run. Where 3 of them, you can condition it down at different times of the day and can control that flow of utilities.
I was of the same thought, and then I started looking at the numbers, and I'm like, wow, there's a greater cost for exterior improvements, but those are for things that you add, like the amenities that you don't have if you keep the building. So using the space between helped, but you'll see it really, it's not a huge swing between the two in terms of compartmentalizing or campus modification. So
We were also looking at as a community space, how can the space be utilized other than 8 to 4,
Right.
Monday through Friday? What else can be done for different segments of the community, whether you have children, whether you don't have children, whether you had children and now you have grandchildren, whether you're just kids in general, how would you use those spaces and multiple uses of the spaces?
And as Cindy mentioned too, Ms. Brown, that we could do you could do certain segments as needed because they are separated so phasing was a little bit, you'd have to mothball a space as you renovate it if it was a contiguous one. So there's pluses and minuses either way. These are just.
Yeah, you want to spin ahead so we can keep on time. The only thing I would say is you'd stop at the pickleball court. That's the difference thing, only because it shows the division of the buildings and the spaces that you could add some of that hardscape elements. These are very similar, like this space. You wouldn't have this in an option 2 that an option 3 may give you. Okay.
And there's the next. Then the outdoor space between. This is the existing cafeteria space. Turn it into the Council on Aging sort of greeting meeting space. Again, this could be used at different times of the day. Council on Aging's out by 4, then at night it can be used for the performing arts if that was going to. The request was having an indoor, some exercise space separate from a quiet space or library, that you'd have some type of exercise component. Again, this is literally the outdoor space is what carving away a section of the building would allow you to open up. This is in the back of the building, taking the back of the building, the green that's there now, letting it flow from the top to the bottom, a classroom, converting into indoor space, either maker space, or it can become a winter/garden/bazaar type of place. Community campus. This is the Grasshopper out back, which is the concession stand and the restrooms that you don't currently have. So then option 4 was taking the whole, I don't know what you call it, north end of the building and removing it. And just maintaining, we're adding, I think the next slide will show you, that we're adding or providing space for the Council on Aging. We would need to have the Recreation Department, we're giving them the space that they currently have. We have after-school programs, first and second floor. The Council on Aging was 6,000 square feet. We would need to provide mechanical improvements, restrooms, toilets, and then an elevator to go from lower level to first and second floor. But you're removing 120,000 square feet from the building. And that's kind of what you're left with, the 1970s addition modified. So,
Next slide.
Does option 4 include the addition to address the annex at the town hall as part of a project?
no, we left those alone. So this was just what we'd leave at the high school area. So there's separate cost use for each of the municipal buildings that we have in here from 0 to 30 years out. So
We were basically just asked to keep the gym alone, and what other things if you had to shave it off. So some of the things Andrew mentioned were amenities like toilet rooms, stairwells, elevators. Those are things you have to put back in that are right now located further east of that
But
plan.
if we do that, we haven't addressed the issues of town hall or annex.
Correct, correct.
But you've studied those, and
Yep.
we know those numbers. Should that be part of this?
we have them further on. We have each building broken out.
And that's also technically part of the first option too.
Right.
Which is to do nothing with the high school and then have the expansion on the town hall.
So you could put
So-
one with the other, one with 4, to make that hybrid type solution. Okay, so these are some of the pros and cons we came up with. You want us to go over this, Chris, or just want to go by this?
It's up to the committee. I mean, we've been,
Yeah.
we've certainly been
Okay.
through these. If you, I think the slide, the cost benefit analysis and the numbers are probably what everybody wants to see at this point,
Yep.
so.
Skip again?
So let's go to cost benefit analysis summary.
Okay.
Yeah, it just wasn't loading in. It's taking a while to,
So I don't know, Dee, if you can make this screen a little bigger, maybe get rid of those images on the right-hand side, or can you do that?
oh.
No.
Don't have power to do that?
I
Okay.
think if you control zoom, you can actually zoom in, if you control and zoom, the way you put your mouse and you zoom.
Hit the control button with your wheel on your mouse,
Control, yeah.
and that can usually, if not, we'll,
Oh, there you go, there we go.
yeah. So now you can
Monica
see
Henley,
with former high school town, school code, I'm sorry, I can't read here, former high school code improvements, town hall expansion. Those give some of the bullets down there with option one, with the total cost being about 26 million. Again, these are numbers that go all the way to 30 years. Do we have that spreadsheet on this too, that John did?
At the end.
It looks that, yeah.
So
it's
these are
down.
just
Okay.
option numbers.
Okay,
So.
so these
are-
kind of
these are not-
summarize.
These aren't out 30, these are if you do the work now for each option. The 0 to 30 is for each building that we have as a separate slide
So-
beyond this.
These are the numbers, if we got approval, that we would need to bond that and finance that today.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So the
But-
first option, I do have a question. So it says former high school code improvements, town hall expansion.
Yes.
So this includes improvements at the high school, at the old high school?
So the 19 million
Yeah.
is for fire sprinkler and code improvements to make the building occupiable. Doesn't renovate it to as new, it just brings it up to code.
Okay,
And then it includes the 6.5 million to add the annex portion onto the town hall, not moving it into this building.
okay, all right, okay.
All right?
And to renovate the town hall,
No, just to add,
just to build an annex.
What about the cost for each one of those tenant spaces once you've got a building that's up to code? They're not in here?
oh,
Just, they're white boxes. They're white boxes.
yeah,
We don't know what the tenant is, so all your life safety systems are all in there.
yeah,
You know, if something else comes in like
So
a gym,
There's a
then,
whole nother
yeah.
well,
big pile of money.
yeah. Or a lot of times if a tenant comes
Why
in,
would we spend $20 million and not use the building? I guess I'm confused about the 19 million in code improvements, but we're not gonna use the building.
You could use it, it makes it occupiable, yes, yeah.
All right.
So, right now, the discussion was like, can we move in right now? Jim said multiple times, we pick these desks up and move them in.
So-
No,
No.
you
Your
can't.
point is,
Right.
this is what we need for code improvements, but anything over and above code improvements will cost extra.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this was a request that was made to,
Okay, all right.
of them
I
to
just
to
wanna
go
make
through,
sure I
yeah.
understand the extent of,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
This is the answer to the question, what would it take to move in tomorrow night?
That's what it
This is what it
Okay.
is, yeah. So,
Yeah, and
And that 19 million doesn't include upgrades to the building, like adapting the offices to municipal uses, or to, that's just basic.
right, based on that.
It doesn't
AC
fix the
systems
front,
and stuff.
it doesn't.
Yeah,
fix
no,
the front.
that's in the next
bigger-
three
that's the
options,
bigger
right?
one, okay.
This was like the bare bones.
Okay.
If you want to move in there and you want to move the annex, this is the
You still
general
have the
price.
old windows,
Yeah,
you still have,
correct,
okay.
yeah.
So this is
You still got the
essentially,
old mechanical systems, electrical systems?
It's going to have some improvements too, but because mechanical air, indoor air
I
quality,
mean, my
lighting,
guess is the
all those.
mechanical systems are shot.
Yeah,
well, it doesn't have air conditioning, right? So days like today, yeah, you'd have to improve that. We did a square foot, these are probable because you don't have drawings for them. So
Yeah.
you did square foot analysis to bring them up to date.
Okay.
But you'll
Just
see
so
at the
we
end of the
understand what we're
presentation.
seeing, not seeing.
Yeah, at the end of the presentation, you'll see a full spreadsheet of, a full cost estimate. What was assumed, what wasn't assumed, 5, 10, 10, 15, 15, 20, 25, 30 years out. And what a full cost.
for each building, not option, but for each town building. to keep them and maintain. That's- So if you, I don't know if you,
Oh, next slide.
no, just the, you zoomed in, so it was, option 2 was 60, what is it, 63 million? Option number 3, which is the community center, is 68 million. So there's not a huge variation in terms of cost. And then option 4, which is the remove the building, but just keep the minor components on the 70, it's 22. So, the next, I don't know what it is.
All the changes.
That's at the end of
I'll describe that when we get to that sheet.
this.
If
So
you
this-
built, I'm sorry, if you built an annex on the town hall, you don't have to do code improvements to the town hall itself?
Well, according to the code, you do.
Yeah.
You do have to
But
do
that's
minimum.
not in your
code.
numbers.
It is. We have
That
minimum
6 million
costs.
includes code
Yes,
improvement?
yeah.
Okay.
And those code improvements could be slight, you already have an elevator in there.
Right.
So those could be minor improvements on that building.
It includes sprinkling or not?
That does not.
No.
That'd be, you build a firewall and you do a new addition as a separate addition.
It's a separate structure too.
So perhaps the slide you just saw would probably be better served at the end of this one, because that's all we were doing is explaining this to go to the next one. So maybe that's where that was at error. But this is, the next slide, I'm moving this one, it's not moving that one, so I'm sorry. Next slide, if you can.
It's just waiting.
Yeah.
So this is a spreadsheet that goes into, I'm going to use my eyes on this one. It goes into the total square footage and what was included. What's important to look down here is the subtotals and what the years are. Again, 0 to first year, first 5 years, 5 to 10, 10 to 20, and then 20 to 30. I think I can do this.
All right, you can see it?
Not yet, right? So if you look at those things, these are the costs that generated throughout these years. Like when you go down to say 20 years, well, what gets hit for 20 years? So you get exterior envelope. You have to revisit that one again. Or parking, paving, and curb cuts. Those things over 20 years will get worse over time. So it looks at all those typical uses of a building over that time period. So the idea is that, well, I can get into this building now for pretty cheap, but once you're in it, then you have to do other modifications and improvements along those 30 years. So if you really want to do a cost-benefit analysis, you have to look at all the options for the same amount a year, and what's it going to totally cost you at the end of those 30 years, not upfront in 5 years.
This is just for the town hall building? Each one of these is for the town hall annex, the council on aging, and then, I don't know what the fourth. Yeah, the former high school one. So these are, if you keep them and you maintain them out 30 years, what it would cost.
Right.
Not operating costs.
Not operating costs, no. So over 30 years. It was the only way for us to keep everything the same, so they're not, I mean, you could skew it any way you wanted, right? So there's no lying on this one, it's all the same on the bottom. So this one.
And a lot of them are projections like, okay, you need septic, or need a new well at the annex now, so it's in the very first column. Well, maybe at the town hall, you need it in 10 years, so we moved it to 10 years. You know, each is somewhat of a variable because we don't know what you're really going to happen.
It's essentially
But-
reserves.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So as you scroll down these things, there's one on Council on Aging, former high school. I don't know how that ended like that.
You went back to the very beginning. Keeps jumping.
So if we could stop
Oh.
there at the old high school, we talked about this the last meeting too.
Yeah.
I think this is gonna cause some concern, where we have the estimated property valuation now is 17,580,000.
Yeah.
People are gonna see that and they say, sell it. Can you honestly say that that is a good valuation for that building? That
No.
you-
No.
No, because you,
I know it's a per, I know it's
Yeah.
a per square foot basis, so.
yeah.
I mean, I think to be realistic about what the true value of this, I think that this really, that number will really skew people's expectations or interpretation of what perhaps the right thing is to do. Because that's gonna look like well, why are we doing this? Building is worth so much. We can pay for so many other things if we sell it.
Yeah, but that's what it's down in the town hall, the value of it is. So we didn't make it up, we just took it from there. Now, I could extrapolate that. It's gonna cost you $3.5 million to take the building down. So then you're left with a parcel with fields on it. So once you get rid of that parcel, what do you do with those fields? You gotta build other fields.
Right.
So
We're
then,
looking at $17.5 million here.
oh yeah, no.
I'm Joe that lives up the street, any street in Westport. I see that number,
Sell it.
sell it.
Sell it, take the 17
Go
million.
in, sell it.
That's correct.
But what is the true, you think, market value of that building? Half of that, a third of that?
Probably,
Of that?
yeah, less than a quarter of that, because
Right.
Because if I were to buy that space, first of all, do I want to buy that building? If I'm a developer, or let's say I'm going to put houses up there, I got to take the building down. I got to deal with any kind of hazardous materials that may be present on the site that I'm not aware of. So I'm going to force you to put something in escrow to protect my interest to do that, to make the deal. So already, the town's at a risk to do that for unknown. I'm going to ask for a 6-month due diligence, and in that 6 months, I'm going to do test bits. I'm going to identify what it's going to cost me to raise that structure and get it out of there, and then I'm going to look at a factor of what am I going to do in its place. If I have to zone it to, say, retail, that's a major zoning, is that going to pass in town? Probably not. And then I got the bigger issue is the water.
Water.
And utilities and septic. How do I treat that?
So can we change them, can we show what you feel the real value is of that building? This $17 million number just scares me.
Didn't we have a number
We had an
11.
appraisal done.
from Hanneman, from, yeah,
From Landvest, and I think it was.
because I remember it was
11.
2, 3,
$11 million
oh, no, I thought it was 2 or 3, frankly.
No, it was $11 million.
Not for
which was
selling it,
also-
still, it's-
Which was also very high, that we knew that we could never get that number, we would have jumped it. Been jumping up and down for joy if we could have gotten that number even then.
I think it would be wise to have a slide just for the public meeting that explains exactly
Right.
what Cindy's
Yeah.
talking about here, because the assessed value, or the, you know, what the official assessment is not, it's not realistic, and it's also, it does not take into account the fact that we would need new fields, need new school administrative facilities, so, yeah, that part, I think we should add one in for the public meeting to make sure it's clear that on
Ooh.
paper, that might be the valuation, but
Right.
in reality, it's far from it, so.
Would bring more value to that piece of land is, you know, sewer systems, who that went by the street, or public utilities.
That's not gonna happen.
Right.
It's very-
But that would increase the value tremendously.
But
Yeah.
you also, Jim, you showed us the overlay of the wells as well, so there's no way, even if you bought it, like, you can't, well, I mean, you're gonna have to put new wells, individual wells, and new septic. You can't put residential into one shared, you know, so there's a lot of underground work that a developer would have to put the money into that it's not there on
And I
return.
think that I think that we would be doing a disservice if we did not explain to people that that would be the process, that if it were sold, what someone would go through and what the impact would be to the town. That if we sold the entire parcel, yes, we would have to we'd have to find money for the fields, to redo the fields, perhaps as a campground. But the cost to the purchaser, that they would have significant costs. So that's why it would decrease the value to them to purchase because of the.
Yeah, they wanna buy it for
they
bottom
would buy-
dollar, and
Yeah.
what do they have to put in
a
it?
significant amount of investment that they would have to put into that.
Right.
I don't know where we are in the process of wrapping this thing up, but is it out of the realm of possibility at this point to get an appraisal? Go to a couple people and get,
I don't think an appraisal is gonna be, my personal opinion is that an appraisal is not gonna show,
well, I think
The action-
Cindy brings up a point when you get
you know.
to the public here, they want to know what that building's worth.
well, I think.
On the open market.
Between the appraisal that has been done and with the, again, the cost that we would have to incur if we did sell it, I think that alone is probably pretty good, you know.
I disagree with that.
I think it's worth very little. I mean, I think. that-
Yeah,
I think it'd be easy to explain how little it's worth, you know, because there, there haven't been people knocking on anyone's door to purchase it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that
so
and that
we could get
appraisal
someone
was
like,
not, what was it,
developer to
23 or
look at it and
22?
say,
Or was it?
what would you
Oh,
do if you
22
were?
or 23, but that was a full appraisal, right? That wasn't a fly-by appraisal.
No, that was the full,
That was a
yeah.
very
As an appraisal, it's more like-
detailed appraisal.
How would
I
they
agree, I'd love to somebody to write a check for $11 million to the town and take it over, but I don't see that happening. You know,
What we could do, though, we could take the $17 million off, and you could put specifics on the site on it. For example,
As is for
if
$2 million.
selling the site, what are you gonna do with the fields, and at what cost is that?
Right.
If selling the site, what is the value to someone else? Are you selling the site as a vacant piece of land? Are you selling the site as is, with the building on it? So those are the questions you want to ask.
Right.
And then you can come up with a value.
And with the selling it, there's a loss of utility. You know, the after-school program, there's all of these things that you can't put an economic value on, but there's a loss of utility.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
So-
that's what we were saying before, you lose that asset. I know it's there now,
Right.
but to build a new gym, to build a new, or to build a pool, or to build an auditorium, you're not gonna get it. The cost is way out of, you know,
So
range, so.
Go ahead.
one question I had is, have we determined what the actual need is, right? So we have an after-school program there which services, I think I heard 102 kids. It's a for-profit after-school program, I think. It's not a,
It's actually not for-profit, but it is, I mean, it's a self-sustaining reserve account funded program. But it's, I know that there is a trajectory to increase the capacity. I think the question is more staffing, actually, than want. I think there is a bit of a wait list right now.
so most after-school programs like that, they happen in the existing schools, right? And that, it was in the existing school until the high school opened, so that's an option, right? So it'd be nice to know what the actual need is for the after-school program. Are we creating 8 or 12 classrooms for a program that is needed for the community, or is it something that we'd like for the community?
Is it nice or necessary?
Nice, and same thing with the fields, right? We built a new school at the time. It was determined that these were all the fields that we actually needed. It's nice to have more fields, and I think my personal opinion is I think we need more fields, but we also have more fields along Sanford Road, we have more fields along Route 177, we have the campground next to the high school. What is that need, right? You know, have we looked at that? Recreation, we have space dedicated in these things to the recreation, but what is their need? Are they just looking for the gym? Are they looking for the locker rooms underneath? Do they need more space for after-school programs? Do they need, you know, yoga? I don't know. Same thing with Council on Aging. What is their need? And I understand a lot of that would be determined later, right? This is kind of a general approach,
Right.
but we just got to be careful that we don't lock ourselves into a program that may not be needed, you know, in
I think it's worth noting that, for example, the classrooms, right? So they may be set up as after-school program classrooms, but then they're also, you know, that could be community use
Yep.
in several different ways. So I think, I agree, we don't want to go overboard, but at the same time, having, especially the classroom, that's kind of a flex space type situation, really. As far as the fields, I mean, I can certainly attest that the fields are getting a lot of use now. We do not have enough fields currently at the middle high school. And I guess the other question as far as, you know, Council on Aging and everything else, I think that I know that they have their strategic plan talks about expansion of programming, and there's certainly, you project out the population of Westport, and clearly the amount of people they'll be serving is going up. So I think that there's probably some benefit in not getting too detailed right now, and having the flexibility of the space. So that's just my thought on it.
So when we were at the public presentation, we were approached by the after-school lady that runs it. She says, if you had more space, I'd fill it. We know when we interviewed the people on the Council of Aging, one of the gentlemen that came up to us after said, look, we could put all types of programs here and we would fill it and more people would join. So I think for this exercise, I think if you show, that's why we showed that one slide with the capacity increase. If you show it has potential of increase with the same dollar and you're thinking that way, so you're not building something out and then 3 years down the road, I got to do an expansion of that program. So build it in as an expansion. I think all those elements fill those. Even the town hall, we took the annex, which is extremely inefficient just because of the configuration of the building. I think they had 3 or 4 people in this huge space. We kept the square footage, and we figured that even if the town hall grows or its capacity grows as the town grows and you need more space, it's built into that. So each one of those components do have a size factor for expansion built into that.
I think, Jim, it's a good question. The issue would be is how do you identify what the real need is over the desire? Because if you ask each group, they're all going to say, I have 200 more students ready to go. That's the school, with Jennifer, with the school department. If you go to the rec department, they're like, we'll take as much as you can give us, right? We want to use this, we want to use that. Council on Aging, like, we can use 5,000 square feet tomorrow. So you're going to get, I think you're going to get a positive response, but what they really need, I don't know how we narrow down on that.
Or what can they afford to expand? Because we're talking physical costs.
Right.
We're not talking the cost of operating the programs. So if you're adding activities for after-school programs, you're adding people to supervise those activities or coach those activities. Same is true for the Council on Aging. A lot of what's done at the Council on Aging is supported through grants and fee-for-services. So people do pay to go to the fitness class, and there are grants for a lot of the other programs that are there. So that has to be a factor. So, and you may have to, or we would have to go back and say, okay, how do you intend to pay for it?
Right.
Not that you could pay for it, how do you intend to pay for it?
Yeah.
I think,
I-
yes, I was just going to say Jim Whiten's had his hand up for a bit patiently. So go ahead, Jim.
He's on mute.
You're on mute
Jim, you
again.
still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here. I have a few questions with regard to the discussion of sell the building and let it go to a developer. That's a complete non-starter. They would have the same cost as you've outlined to make the building code compliant.
Yep.
So they would say they spend $11 million on the property and the building, add $19 million to it to get up to code. That is not going to happen. And to knock it down or sell it to a developer who's going to knock it down, they're going to have the same cost as we would to knock the building down, $3.5, $4 million. And what you're left with is about
Oh,
We lost you.
We did lose him this time, all right.
But to his point, right, I think there's been general agreement that the recommendation would not be to sell the property. Is that-
Yes.
yeah.
Right, but I think for people to make that choice, you know, eventually this will have to go to a ballot, right? So for people to have that knowledge, at least knowing that it's easy to say, let's just keep it as it is right now and don't do anything. It's easy to not do anything, right? That's the easiest vote. So you want to make sure they really understand what that costs.
And I think, so this gets into the later part of the discussion today. I would like to talk about how we present this information in the public meeting. And maybe take some of the information that's here and some condensing, some expanding. But really, that could be, that actually, I think, would kind of be separate from what you all are doing as far as, you know, I would like to see just another, like I said, another slide that touches on the sale, and why that is not such a great idea. But, you know, maybe we can work together to create the, I guess, this is the good study PDF, but maybe we can, figure out the actual presentation to the town.
Chris, I'm on the cost, I agree, we'll do that slide. The cost-benefit analysis summary is a great slide because it looks at all those different things. Do you believe that we should present that at a public meeting?
I do,
Or do you?
I absolutely.
So we looked at all those options, those are the summaries, and this is why, right? With the, I don't think we have why the costs, what they are. I mean, we were internally
We can
surprised.
expand them some. I ran out of room.
No. We were surprised how, the adaptive reuse was almost the same as a community campus with the hardscape. That was a little surprising number. And then the option one, when first of all, you say, hey, that's less expensive, it's $26 million. That doesn't take into effect what happens to the existing high school, which we do have a number for that. John did that just today, he re-looked at it. What was that, 17 million?
Yeah.
So that's 17 on top of the 26, which is 43 million and change.
Yeah, those numbers, there's the issue of pushing it out for each building independent or doing the work in the next 1 to 5 years.
Right. So my point is if you summarized it and said, at a 30-year expansion or a 30-year expenditure for the town, look at the difference and then look at what you gain. To me, it's pretty obvious which one is your solution. The question I would have for the committee is obviously you have to vote that and you have to tell us that's the one. And if it isn't, then we have to come up with a reason why it isn't and then present that because when we lay this thing out in facts, there's smart people in town. They're going to look and they're going to come to the same conclusion we are.
Of course.
Well, actually, at the committee, the community meeting, at the end, I had at least 5 people come up and say, we're not losing the high school. Don't even talk about tearing it down. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
I think it's worth putting up a slide that says, hey, it's going to cost us $6 million or however many, or what, 3 or 5, you said it a couple times, just to demolish it.
3.5 million, yeah.
Right.
So 3.5, so just putting that up on a slide. I do think that, so let me just step back for a second. So what you all have been presenting here is good in terms of the study for our purposes. And I think that what will be necessary is, first of all, the committee, we do have it on the agenda to vote on a recommendation, to discuss and vote on a recommendation, or at least potentially vote on a recommendation. I think that it would be important to present every one of these options, at least, certainly in the cost-benefit analysis, certainly in a couple other, just to make sure that everybody's aware that we looked at all of these options, but focus the presentation in on the option that the committee selects here. So I think if
And I even think for that purpose, just the slide before, the cost-benefit analysis summary and the option comparison is a good side-by-side, just to see what you have the pros and cons in terms of the usage of, or what use you would get out of each option. And then on the following slide, you're looking at the actual figures. I think those are good to have side-by-side for the public presentation as well.
Agreed, yeah, absolutely. And I think perhaps I might be able to work with you all a little bit just between now and the public meeting. But I guess we are getting a little bit ahead of ourselves at the moment. So if it's all right with you, I think we'll just go ahead and move to the agenda item where we're, discuss the options here. So I will say that based on, actually, let's step back here. When we first decided to pursue this study and make a recommendation to the select board that we should pursue an option that would create a municipal center of some variety, a civic center, campus, community campus, however you want to describe it. The idea that I think Ms. Brown articulated first was, it's going to cost us money to do anything. It's going to cost us money to do nothing. It'll cost us money to tear it down. I think it's worth, we owe it to the town to give them the options, no matter how expensive or they would be, to start out, this is what it would cost to do something with it, and give the town the option to vote that up or down. Based on the cost benefits here, based on the projected numbers going forward, I do see that the community campus option seems to be the one that jumps out to me as a good way forward. The other, if you're talking about just making the code improvements, we're not going to spend $26 million just to have it sit, ready to move in. What does that actually mean? And then I don't see any benefit whatsoever to tearing down the north end of it and just leaving the gym. I mean, at that point, you're still making a dramatic expenditure in the code improvements and everything. And as you mentioned, entirely new mechanical systems and everything, even for the existing, what would be the existing structure. So, one thing I like the idea of the within the community campus concept is that by having 3 separate buildings, you have better control of utilities. You've got 3 separate systems. Even, yes, you could zone with the adaptive reuse, but at the same time, it's still going to be more efficient with separate systems. And also that means you can have you can have something that's beyond, as you mentioned, beyond 8 to 4. Like there's more at play there. So, I mean, that is the option that's certainly jumping out to me. And that's certainly my thoughts on it.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Move on.
if we're going to make a recommendation, it should be all about the recommendation. In other words, lead with what you're recommending, give the sales pitch for why you're recommending it, cost-benefit analysis, then say, before we open this up for questions, we would also like to share the things that we considered and rejected. Bing, 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 bing. But the sales pitch is not on every one of these
Everything.
recommendations.
Absolutely, yes.
Correct.
And we're not
Right.
putting everyone forth with the same
Correct.
level and intensity we're going to put the recommendation of the committee. So if the committee can come to some consensus, a strong majority, let's say, then that would be my suggested approach.
I would agree. And that my thought is that it is important to make sure that the public is aware that we have considered other options, but I agree, that should be a quick,
Right.
quick part of the presentation as opposed to the,
And we can have in our pockets, as members of the committee and as presenters,
That information.
that information, for talking points. So
Correct.
you don't have to put it all in that.
Correct.
We may say, okay, cluster them, the cost of doing nothing, blah, 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 things like that.
and I see, I mean, I think it's important to have this study, the full study, publicly available, but I do think that when we're talking about the next public meeting, I would like to work with you all to get the sales pitch, I guess, if you will, down. But let's, I guess, get back to see, does anybody else have any thoughts on which option is?
Okay.
Jim does.
Jim, go ahead.
I'm not a voting member, but, so, I just want to put it out there, option 4 with the 23 million with just the gym keeping there, right? So, with an additional 15 million, you could redo this town hall and build an addition to cover the space for the annex. So now you're looking at about $38 million total. Have a brand-new town hall, people from the annex would move into the town hall, would stay in Central Village, and you would still have a recreational facility up at the high school. I agree ideally, I mean, I'd love to see the community campus, but you're looking almost double the money, right? 70 million, 68 million as opposed to 35, 37 million. So, if you look at option C or a smaller option of the school, there is some cost savings.
Option 4 includes some space for the senior center too, right? It's not just rec, right? Isn't that right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there is 6,000 square feet for Council on Aging. So it would include after-school programs, recreation, Council on Aging in that end of the building.
And then my last comment is, and I hate to do this because it gives people a way out, but what's the fallback position, right? So if it goes to a community meeting and we have a lot of excitement and we pick an option, and then we got to go to town meeting, we got to go out to a ballot. What happens if it doesn't get approved? What is our fallback position? Do we recommend demolishing the building, or do we consider just going as is long as we can keep the doors open.
I feel very strongly that we should not necessarily present a fallback option at this time. I think that a special town meeting is certainly the right time to present something like this. So say October, November. And I think that if such a thing was voted down, and of course it would take I believe it would take it would be have to be a ballot question as well afterwards. I think at that point in time, we go back if we have to. But I think the importance of presenting presenting a comprehensive option and letting the town vote it up or down is important at this point. Because I think this has gone on for many, many years. And at this point, again, the town deserves to say yea or nay to something like this. So.
A question. If we believed that option 2 or 3 is not provable, do we still want to present it? An unapprovable option? I don't know that it is. Or is it our responsibility to say, here is the best option?
And I guess
And we don't, between ourselves, we don't know if it's approvable.
we'll have to wait and see if it is approvable.
And that was my point, more eloquently stated than I was going to say, but.
I doubt that.
Because we do have a point of view. You've been doing this for X number of years, blah, 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 you've hired all these consultants, and you're throwing it back in our lap? I mean, so it has to sound like a solid recommendation, whatever it is, that we believe in,
Correct.
and for the following reasons. Because if we do anything less than that,
Then we're,
we have flunked.
right, we're just spinning wheels again.
We become a debating society
Right,
that had a consultant's budget.
yeah.
So I do think that the third option is the best one to put forth to the town. I do think we'll need to strongly articulate the benefits of it. I do, the town obviously.
Also, if I could just chime in, to Jim's point too, the need there. I think that it's maybe clearer to us because we've been doing it for a while, but to put that in a concise way that says that, this addresses the needs of town departments. And it's not a, sort of a nice thing to have, but it addresses needs that we're seeing. Council on Aging with scheduling, with their
Solves
programming.
problems.
Exactly, right,
Solves problems,
right,
exactly,
right.
yep.
And eliminates future problems.
Right. I mean, from me, based on what I heard from the consultants' work, and the community input as well, which I think is important to consider, because ultimately, this will go to the taxpayers for a
Correct.
vote. I think I would agree with the third option, making sense for the purposes of recommendation. And from a cost perspective, I mean, even for a debt exclusion, if you're looking at a $64 million versus a $68 million debt exclusion, I mean, I don't know how many voters would make a distinction at that, if you're at the ballot box between 64 and 68. On the other hand, if you're at the lower end of 26, what are you getting for that versus knocking it down versus option 4? So, I mean, again, I think just between the good work that RGB has done so far and what we heard from the community, I think that seems like what could be presented as the recommendation.
So at this time, I will ask if anybody else any other committee members have any any other thoughts on the matter before entertaining motions?
I think a slide needs to be included which shows the tax consequences of this choice on the average
Yes.
homeowner.
So what I envision here is that if we, as a committee, vote to make a recommendation, the next part of the discussion today will be talking about the community meeting, and I also think that we should talk about, we should talk about the contents of the presentation, including such a thing. Because I think we need to present as true as possible, all of the facets of this, including what it is going to cost, because it's not just 60, it's not just numbers on paper. It does have a real cost. I do think that it is. I do think the community campus notion is going to find quite a lot of support among the community. I really do. This is not a. Oops.
Someone's joined into the meeting,
Excellent.
the 774 number.
So the thought, the thought I have, just saying it again, I think we owe it to the town to give the option that solves the most problems, gives the most benefits, and if, from there, certainly give it some zealous advocacy, and then we'll see what the town says. I think that's where we're at right now. So.
Are we done with RGB?
So, what I've
We let them,
this is talking about the community meeting. What I would like to do is we'll talk here. I would like to catch up with you all.
Sure.
Sometime certainly between now and then, but probably later this week. And I don't want you to don't start deleting slides, obviously, because the full study here is very important, and I think this should be, the full thing should be public. But perhaps we can talk about how to
Consolidate.
how to create, the pitch deck, if you will, and that one won't necessarily have to be all on you as well. So, yeah. So really, at this point, I guess, unless you want to stick around, if we end up voting here if we have a motion, other than that, I think we're all right. So.
I'd like to know which way you're going to vote so we can kind of think about it and talk internally, because
sure,
it's,
you're welcome to
Yes.
stay.
we have to guess or read it tomorrow morning or something, or listen to it on the way home, but
So I say again, I will entertain motions at this time if anyone has one.
Okay, I'll lead. I will make a motion that this committee set forth a recommendation for option 3. I'm on board with the community campus. I think that it would be a very long-term investment for the community, and I think that the community will understand that it is an investment in the community, and that it's a community that they would want to live in based on that. So I think it would check off a lot of boxes. I like the separation from a security standpoint, from a aesthetic standpoint. It's still the old school, but not the old school. It serves a lot of purposes. So I would put my vote towards, and I would put a motion towards this committee recommending option number 3, the community campus.
I'll second Ms. Brown's motion.
All right, it has been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion at this time? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
And any opposed? Hearing none, the committee
1, 2,
will.
3, 4. We have 5
We have
voting members here.
5 voting members, yes, indeed, so.
Is that do we have a quorum?
Yes.
Anybody
Yes.
Tonight, actually, is it, may I ask who's on the phone meeting, or on the the dial in here, the 774 number?
Have themselves on mute now.
You're currently muted, but could I ask, I'm just wondering if that's Mr. Leach by any chance?
Wheeler?
Oh, that's,
That- that's-
yeah, that's Dia.
that
That's
one's
Dia.
me.
That's Dia. Okay, well, even still, we do have a quorum, so, and I'm in the committee, so. All right, so, with a 5-0 vote to recommend the community campus option to the select, did I hear you right, that that motion was to recommend it to the select board? And to the
Yes.
public? That's what I thought. All right, excellent. So, at this time, I believe the next item on the agenda is the, just discussion of the community meeting.
May I ask
So-
one question of our?
Yes, of
our
course,
guest here?
absolutely.
The budget that you've established on a square foot or metric basis, how conservative is that number? For instance, there's no value engineering in it. It's a number that reflects current economic situations, tariffs on Canadian steel, things like that.
Based on $20, $25.
Yeah. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, right? So things could get worse, they could get better. We do see trends in the field that labor is still going up, but not at the pace it was, and materials are stabilizing, and if not, going down. So we see that trend happening. We didn't put a tariff factor in it. We know that new construction is roughly 800, and we estimated about 450 for renovation. And then we added some other elements just on institutional knowledge of projects we have going on right now, like pavement, curves, utilities, what those things cost.
And then a contingency,
There's a contingency.
10%?
Slightly less of a contingency. So, did he do inflation? Okay. So he even had escalation. I didn't know they had escalation in there. That's even better. The next thing is when you tune down to this, we take it apart even further and we elaborate on those costs even further so that if you do get asked those direct questions from the public, which are justified and totally justified, you can respond back with answers that to support the numbers.
If we went ahead with this project, when we go ahead with this project, what is your probability that it'll come in within that budget? 50/50, 90%? I'm trying to get.
I think you don't, so at this point, without any drawings for us to estimate,
No
say, for
program.
example, steel, I don't know how much steel I'm going to put in that building yet, right? I can assume, based on the spans or whatnot, that I will be putting steel in. I can tell you that as a company, we've got over 100 projects in design and construction right now, and that if you have a budget, one of our duties is to hit that budget, to meet that budget. So we take that budget and we work back. So we make sure that the estimate has, as just Andrew just alluded on, that's even better, it had inflation factor on it, but it has a percentage for contingency and it has an inflation factor on it. So the first thing we do, if, let's say theoretically, if the bond went through and you've got this pot of money, is you automatically take soft cost out, you identify the hard cost, and then you do quick due diligence of the existing building to get you closer to that. The town may, if it looks like the momentum's going forward, the town may do other due diligences with the building. For example, environmental issues. How much asbestos, how much environmental. So you can start tuning different pylons of money where that's going to go in the renovation of that building. That's what you can do. But I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you it will. I can tell you whatever it was, we'll meet it. You got to meet it. It's not a ridiculous number to go by. The building has great bones. It's an older building. We just came from, so we came separate cars. I just came from a $75 million project we're doing up in Hopkinton, Mass. For the laborers, where 60% of the buildings, we did the whole campus, 60% of the buildings were older buildings, 1950s, 1960s, and we're just renovating. And they're fantastic buildings right now because they have all the bones of an old building and they have all the new elements of a modern building. So those were all done on budgets as well.
What type of a former structure was it? Was it a school?
No, it was a commercial, what was it? Yeah,
Oh, the labor.
campus, yeah.
The one that happened.
So it was a dormitory, warehouse, office building, yeah, multiple buildings, so,
One was administration. That was a gut rehab.
yeah. It's gorgeous now, because the benefit of the high school you have right now is they're a classroom building. So classrooms typically don't have columns in the middle of them. So you'll see a lot of times when they go and try to retro a building, they'll say the column grid is off. We can't do it. We can't make bedrooms out of this. Well, a school building, you have auditoriums, gymnasium, classrooms, all of which have no columns. So if you blow everything down and you just have those bearing partitions, you work within that, you can create great spaces that are already done for you. And the most difficult part of a building and the most expensive part of the building with tariffs and whatnot is the steel
And to
right
create
now.
that open space without having support.
Exactly. So I think that one of the biggest,
And whatnot.
your biggest cost may be your mechanical systems and your life safety systems, because of those are always changing with the codes, with the environment, with technology. Like for example, your air conditioning system in your house right now is already outdated, even if you got it done 2 years ago, because they just changed the Freon. So that's outdated now. So those things always change. But your main things, your bones, your structure, your concrete, your steel, those are good elements that don't deter over time. We didn't see any large components of that building built at that time period where the slab was sinking, cracking, the walls were shearing off, the building was moving uncontrollably. We saw none of that occurring. We saw typical stuff that was lack of upkeep over time. All your drainages were clogged, windows were outdated, boilers were outdated, mechanical systems generally outdated. Some of the materials were old materials. That's what you generally see. But the common bones of that building is a good building.
Thank you.
All right?
Just, do these numbers include OPM, soft cost, design?
I don't believe they do. No.
So when we present to the public, we got to add those in.
We'll add those in, yeah.
We're looking at $2.5 million OPM.
Yeah.
design,
You get about
$15.
15%. You get to figure 15% add
Okay.
onto that.
So when the number is presented to the public, we need the number,
All in.
because we only
Yeah.
get one shot at that number.
Yep, I understand.
We go in at 65 now and
Yep.
find out it's 75 later.
We didn't want to skew, at this point, we didn't want to skew the numbers too much with soft costs, because soft costs, if you do a new building, your soft cost should be lower than a renovation building. Those are typically higher. So we didn't know how you wanted, so we just took them off the plate. And again, I was trying to just put apples to apples, so we could rationally look at all the options. So now we'll put that, if we know what direction, we'll use that.
And what I would ask is, you add that in, but keep what you have now, and just add in.
A separate, yes. Yep.
Because I think that's going to be a really big part of, again, the presentation, is
Yep.
just showing. Yeah.
Yep.
Good deal. All right, excellent. Well, I think you all can take off if you want to, so I appreciate it very much, and
You have a date to the public meeting?
that was the next part we were going to discuss.
Because
And-
then what we'll do internally is we're going to put a schedule together. What do we need to do to get to that point? And last question I have is, do we want to make it public how many days in advance of that public meeting?
Certainly as many as possible. So I guess that's the next question. When are we looking at this? Well, actually, I would like to ask Jim, so knowing that we're losing you here shortly, but would it be possible to just get what a necessary timeline would be for a special town meeting? Like what, I know, and ultimately, this is going to have to be the select board that decides that, but I am just curious as to the timeline.
Is
Because-
it warrant 30 days? 15
Another
days?
special town meeting is pretty
15
quick.
15 days, 14 days, something like that.
Yeah,
maybe
well,
even
I
7,
don't know,
yeah.
it could be 4 to 6 weeks, I don't
Yeah,
know.
okay.
I want to, I don't know if I necessarily want to set the date yet, just because I want to figure out the sweet spot between
Oh, the meeting and
the
special
meeting
town
and the
meeting.
and the special town meeting, yeah. Does that make sense?
I know we were all over the place, and I thought we had a recommendation, but I don't think we could do the public meeting during the summer.
I agree.
I agree.
We're now
Yeah.
third week of July.
Yeah,
And people, I mean, and I get it, earliest would be the second or third week of September. And then, we could do some of our work as a committee and then Jim probably get this on the select board agenda, at least for some discussion. Because the charge is to the committee from the select board, so we can't sort of bypass that process.
Yes, of course. So it was my intention to just send a letter to the select board for now, for the next meeting, just reporting.
Yeah.
And I do agree that trying to do this in the summer is not gonna be, I don't think is the right approach, so.
We are meeting during the summer, so I think if you wanted to do a presentation at some future select board meeting, that would be, I mean, Jim, I would think that would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, again, ultimately, it's the
absolutely.
select board that's gonna have to set,
Yeah,
anything beyond.
I don't know that we've had a real formal progress report recently. I mean,
It's been a while, yeah.
You know, I mean, I will occasionally mention what committee's up to, because we have this section of the meeting where everybody tells us what we've been doing in our committees, but that's not the same as a committee presentation.
So the next select board meeting is, we just had one yesterday, right?
20th.
So, okay. So I could certainly give an update anyway at that meeting, but I do think I would like to have, so I guess after that, 4th would be the next one, is that correct? Or we just
Yeah, I
do,
believe
is
it's
it every
2
2
weeks
weeks right now?
after,
Okay,
yeah.
so maybe, give a quick update at the next meeting, and then by the 4th, we'll have a more formal presentation. Again, I do think that the community meeting, you mentioned second week of September, or something like that, I think that would be good. If we can get an answer on what a timeline looks like for the town meeting, and then obviously, the next step is the select board, I think, at this point, so.
So,
Unless anybody, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
so first select board, you'll give a quick update, then maybe more formal presentation. Then come September, community meeting.
That's where, yeah, because,
That's the sequencing.
yeah.
Sounds good. Okay. I thought we were gonna do, select board after community meeting and use like, oh, everybody at the community liked it, but I think the order, I'm okay with any order.
Originally, that's what I was thinking too, but I think in this case, I think it is, I agree with Ms. Dutcher, it's important to update and get the select board involved in this, because, I mean,
Yeah,
again, our charge is from the select board, so,
yeah.
Because we haven't really had a conversation as a committee.
Yeah.
And
it's been a while since.
and have we ever
Sure, so-
brought RGB into the select board meeting?
I don't believe so, no. No.
I think that wouldn't be a bad thing either. But a very concise, summary of what we've talked about with the committee, sort of introducing it, would make sense. At least to me.
So could we plan on bringing you in for the select board meeting on the 4th? So that gives, 4th of August, yeah, so that gives us about a month here. And like I said, I would like to talk with you all about what the presentations, I guess, look like. Yeah, I think that's a good plan of action, and we can shoot for sometime in September for the community meeting, contingent on the select board wanting to move forward. How's that?
I think that's good, and I think it's critical that they get you the presentation a few weeks prior to the public meeting so that you can all review it ahead of
Absolutely,
time.
Absolutely.
Would the select board want an advance copy as well?
I think that's part of why I was thinking if we have enough time between now and then, because I'll make a report at the next meeting, just kind of a brief overview, and see if they'll invite you for the next.
So not
Next
the
agenda.
4th, but perhaps the 18th, then they would be,
No, so the next select board meeting is
Yeah.
in 2 weeks.
Right.
I'll report.
right,
that
so
we
they
have
would
this,
not
but-
need to be, oh, at the 4th would be 2 meetings. from now.
Yes, and then
Sorry.
we could give the
I
full
lost track. of my-
presentation. No worries, no worries.
What time are those meetings?
6.
6.
We just have to make sure there's no public hearings that we've already promised, because we have to sort of, those are the things that are sort of cast in stone for our meetings. Because we have to put notices out and things like that, so we can work around those. Do we have anything scheduled beyond the 21st for public hearings?
Not that I'm aware of, no. I don't think we have any poll hearings, so I think we should be good.
Yeah, and just in full disclosure, I will not be at the next meeting.
21st.
So that's why I was thinking if we, I'll report, if we can get on the agenda for just a report,
Yep.
the next meeting, and then on the 4th, we can have a presentation, if that's,
Yeah, we can get you in first and
okay.
You want a presentation to the public 2 weeks before the public presentation.
Correct.
The select board.
It'd be the select board, yes. So the presentation to the select board does not necessarily need to be the full, but the presentation to the select board is kind of, it would more be a synopsis of what, of the study, I guess, presentation.
We're getting it done in 2 weeks, so we'll work with you.
But yeah, absolutely, yeah. We'll touch base and then- Excellent.
How much time do we have?
So we'll just, if,
You said concise.
so if you're talking,
15
yeah,
minutes.
15 minutes
15
tops.
minutes, yeah.
So, and that, yeah, 15 minutes on the 4th, and then incorporate that into the,
and it'll be good because it gets it out there as well, right?
It'll be
It's a few more
televised
viewers
live.
then.
So we want like a summarized version that's quick visually,
Yes.
more so,
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Dutra, I think it might be a good idea to have basically a synopsis of not necessarily just the option, but a synopsis of, or a summary of the study, summary of what you all have done for the select board. And then,
Yeah.
so not necessarily, so half a sales pitch, not the full sale, more of a, this is what has been done up to this point.
Yeah, what, you know, the different options, you know, without going into great detail, but we looked at A, B, and C. And the final report will cover some of that. We will also be prepared to address it at a public meeting, but to keep this moving and to enable our consultants, RGB, to continue to know what we're looking for and how we can bring this to conclusion or wrapping it up. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So at this time, so that, I think we can hold off on the rest of the format and budget until we go from there. So again, I'll deliver just a note and do a quick update for the select board at the next meeting, and then on the 4th, have you all in for a 15-minute presentation to the select board, and then we'll see if we're going to have a public meeting right after that, so.
So we're not asking them to go to the select board meeting on the 21st, only in.
No, only on the 4th.
Which is good, because
Yeah. And that also, I think gives us all enough time to get the ducks in a row as far as which presentations, which and whatnot, so. All right, well, excellent. So thank you once again. Appreciate all the work, and looking forward to taking the next steps here, so. Very quickly, we
And the
are,
drive time.
and the drive, yes,
And the
thank you.
drive time.
Indeed, so. Oh, no, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. We have 3 outstanding minutes, sets of minutes to approve. I have been given one note on the April the 10th, or, yes, the April the 10th minutes, which would be, that was the public meeting, slight typo where it says gymnasium. Technically, it's the old gym, but we'll just change that to media center. So I would entertain a motion to approve, let's just approve the outstanding minutes from February 27th, 2025, and June 5th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
All right.
And now I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from April 10th, 2025, pending the correction.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and we'll move now to topics not reasonably anticipated within 48 hours. I have none, and I'll entertain a motion to
This
adjourn.
committee has no set date for our meeting.
That is correct. We will, certainly, but yeah, at this time, again, my intention is to report to the select board and prepare, I guess, for the presentation on the 4th. If a meeting is necessary between now and the 4th, I'll inform the committee, but likely it would, I think it would be after RGB's presentation to the select board.
So your meeting with the select board is not to ask their approval, it's to indicate the direction and tell them what they will see on the 4th of August.
That is correct. So that on the next meeting, I would not ask for an agenda item, or excuse me, for an action item on the agenda, just an update.
Right. Thank you.
All right.
I just want to make sure there'll be enough time after the 4th, or between the 4th and the community meeting, that we can meet to discuss some of those things like the budget and stuff.
Yes. It'd be at least a month. Yeah, at least a month.
So we'll have time to meet before the community meeting?
Yes.
Have at least 2 weeks?
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
and in fact, once, if we, assuming that the select board wants to move forward, and of course it is, it is their purview one way or the other, I think we'll certainly have plenty of time to put together a full, that's also why I was saying we'll meet likely after that, the 4th, probably a couple times at least,
Nice,
between then and the meeting, so. All right, excellent. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second.
Moved and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned, thank you.